Hey, welcome to Manalizing. This is where men talk about the kind of stuff that men don't talk about. Put your hard hat on, get ready for a ride. Here we go. Hey, welcome to Manalizing. I'm Garth Haslam. Today I'm interviewing Beau Brown. He's a man that I found just by my marketing efforts, looking for more customers for my structural engineering business. Beau is a home inspector who has done some cool things in his life, but he has had his suicidal moment, and he talks about that in this interview. Beau gets very vulnerable, and I appreciate that out of him, especially considering that he and I, up until the interview, we were strangers. I'd never met the man. Here's a man who knows who he is, and he's inspiring. Here's the interview. Welcome to Manalizing, Beau Brown.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
You're a home inspector.
Yes.
And like so many of the other guys that I interview, we go way back.
Oh yeah, way back.
I met you about 1 minute ago.
Yeah.
At least in person, I texted you a week and some change ago.
Yeah, a week and some change ago, I got a message from you saying, hey, if you're looking for a structural engineer, I got your back. And I was like, I'm already referring you if you didn't know that.
Tell me about you. You're a home inspector now.
Yeah.
And how did that path happen? What got you to this point?
I'll give you the short version. It's a little, it's kind of a weird winding path for me. I started out as kind of a handyman. I ended up going to business school before I got my business degree. I lost my mind and decided that just wasn't for me. I wasn't going to be happy being a business guy sitting behind a counter. So I changed things up and decided to become a helicopter pilot. And I flew helicopters for professionally for quite a while. But as a helicopter pilot, there's a lot of downtime, a lot of time where you're not flying or you're looking for the next gig. It's not the glamorous life a lot of people think it is. And I spent a lot of time trying to fill the dead spaces with money and things to do so that, we had money to go do things. And I ended up relying a lot of my skills on just I'm really good with my hands. So I ended up doing handyman work, repair work. I was doing remodels in Hawaii. And one of the pilots that I was flying with for a competing company had a home inspection business. I don't remember exactly how it all came together, but I ended up working for him. He ended up becoming kind of a mentor for me. And I quit what I was doing. I quit helicopters, moved away from Hawaii back to Utah, and started my own inspection business 2 weeks before they shut down the government for COVID.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's a great time to get started.
It was a great decision.
Dude, you're doing everything backwards. You're going from helicoptering, which to me does sound glamorous, in Hawaii, which sounds glamorous.
Right?
Coming to cold Utah, which doesn't sound glamorous, and doing home inspections, which I know is not glamorous.
I did it for my family.
I
did it for my daughter. But mostly I did it for me. I was not as happy as I thought I would be in the helicopter piloting career. It's a great industry to be in if you're a single guy or a single woman. Be frank about it if we're going to talk about this. It's hard for women in that industry, and the men know it. Most of them do. But either way, as a man, there's a joke that goes through the industry. It's called AIDS, aviation-induced divorce syndrome, and it's true. You don't meet very many pilots that haven't been on at least one divorce. I got really close to one myself. So.
Why is that? Just because you got to be?
You got to be away a lot to be a helicopter pilot, or at least the way I was doing it. So to kind of talk you through the progression on becoming a helicopter pilot, you get your license, you become a flight instructor. This is kind of like a journeymanship. You're doing the hard end work. This is not easy or fun. They pay you next to nothing for it. Then after that, you can move into bigger and better stuff. But as you get into bigger and better industries, a lot of the helicopter piloting stuff, you want to make $200,000 a year, you're gone 3/4 of the year. You're not going to be home. You're flying oil rigs in Papua New Guinea. You're flying mines in Alaska. You're putting fires out in California, and you're on a fire crew for half the year. Half of the time, you're gone. You don't get to have a family life and be a successful helicopter pilot. And if you do, you got one of the rare jobs. I think it's one of the big things. That's why I'm happy to be here to talk. Is there's a lot of guys out there that they're making really good money, but they're sacrificing a lot for it, and there's no real alternative. It seems like anymore. It's hard to find something where you can make yourself $100,000, $200,000 a year. You'll find people all over the internet that will say it's possible. But to find an actual job, that those aren't for everybody. You got to find something that you like doing.
There's feeding your family.
Yeah.
And then you got to like doing it. I picked up a job way back 10,000 years ago when I was working for somebody else. And it was a nice little increase. I went from, and this might indicate how long ago it was, but I went from 30,000 to 40,000 a year.
Okay.
And that was a lot of money.
That would be, well, let me make a guess on this one then. So that was 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I found that, what I was doing was paperwork. And at the same time, it was this bad. My job was to write change orders. And it was at Hercules. We were doing rocket motor design. And my thing was to say, all right, we're going to put, for example, 18 of this kind of bolts with this head made of this material and this number of threads per inch at this length. And I'm like, this may be rocket motor design, but it is insanely boring, and I hated it. And I'd come home every day ornery. It's kind of in the category of make a lot of money, but your wife hates you.
Yeah. So when I was flying in Hawaii, I upgraded from the first company that I was working for in Hawaii, and went to the largest company in Hawaii. I'm not going to name them in this, but went to the largest company that was flying helicopters in Hawaii. And I got moved out to their smallest base on the island I was on, and was flying really short tours, which I was not happy with whatsoever. And they just pile people in, you go up for a tour, you come back, and repeat over and over and over. 7 or 8 of these in a day.
Say the same words every time.
Well, I mean, tell the same joke every single time they get in, and everybody thinks it's funny. You look over and goes, your first time in a helicopter? Eventually somebody would say, yeah, and you go, oh, mine too. I'm glad I'm not alone. So it makes everybody laugh. Gets a chuckle every single time, but I told that joke thousands of times over the years. And I would come home mentally exhausted from spending the day trying to make these people have the time of their lives, make sure that I got a good tip at the end of the day because that was part of my income. And I just mentally was not there enough for my family and my wife. That was one of the things that led to my wife eventually left. I was there by myself for a while. And then, I ended up deciding that I was going to start a business when I moved back here. My wife and I worked things out. We're together now. I mean, it all turned around. But I tell people, I used to fly helicopters. I used to do it on Hawaii, and I get that reaction all the time. Why on earth would you leave flying helicopters in Hawaii? I would kill for that. I would have too at the age 20, but by the time I was 30, it was a different story.
Right, you had other priorities.
Yeah, I wasn't looking for the adventure anymore.
Yeah, my wife and I were talking about how much of a difference it makes having a family. You learn what love really is. And, we were talking about how you really don't know what love is until you got kids.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. You think...
You don't know what love is or problems are until you have a kid. Like they take on a whole new level of problems.
That is very true.
I had a real weird, unique experience with it too, because when we moved to Hawaii, we brought on, so my wife had a couple of cousins whose mother had died before we moved to Hawaii. And both of them were in kind of a rough situation. So we brought them on with us. And the boy, Zach, he was 14 when he moved out to Hawaii with us.
Mm-hmm.
And his sister was 16. And Blakely, my daughter, was 2.
Okay.
And so I got to experience the teenagers and the 2-year-old at the same time.
Oh.
While also haven't. It was a crazy experience. Hawaii was rough for me. But
Yeah. Yeah. I can only imagine. Teenager, hard. 2-year-old, also hard.
yeah,
And,
for completely different reasons,
and
and sometimes the exact same reason.
because they're both babies.
They're both in a bad mood today, and they got to be rough when they're in a bad mood.
So you mentioned that you saved the marriage. And this question is for the guys who are in that place where, whether it's AIDS, aviation-induced divorce,
Yeah.
or whether it's something else, painters-induced divorce, or car salesman-induced divorce, or I don't make enough money, or I hate my job-induced divorce. I recognize some of those. I gotta tell this story. So I was doing a home inspection, and I was out in front of the house, and this was a number of years ago. But I heard a bunch of screaming from across the street, and it was, it doesn't matter how much money I make, it's never enough for you, blah blah blah. And that conversation was easily audible, hearable for at least the entire block. And it was a yelling match, and those aren't that uncommon, but having it be in the front yard is a little less common. And, I was thinking about that for a long time ever since. I really think that what he was yelling at her, accusing her of, was actually what was going through his mind all of the time. It doesn't matter how much money I make, I'm never enough. So I had to tell that story.
Yeah.
But, that's the kind of stuff that us guys do to ourselves. Kind of the opposite of being daddy ATM is daddy, the ATM is empty, and that sucks too.
Yeah. Well, so I've had those feelings before. Where you felt like you're never making enough. We moved from California to Hawaii. The idea was we were going to be making more than we'd ever made. And then we brought on 2 kids, more than what we already had. And we were strapped. Like, I had no clue how expensive it was to live in Hawaii. I knew how much I was going to be making, but I didn't realize how much of that it was going to take to actually exist. And then I quit that job because I wasn't making enough. I moved to another one that was even better. But by that point in time, the problems that I had caused, and it's a both sides story, but the problems that were there were hard to get past, and more money wasn't making it better. So, if I guess a piece of advice I can give is, if you feel like no matter how much money I make, things aren't going to get better, it might not be the money that's the problem.
Right.
It really, you need to slow down and reevaluate. It really might not be the money.
I think you've done that, and I think I need to ask you questions that draw that out of you. But, yeah, I think one of the ways that us guys measure ourselves is what titles we have, and that's probably second place. How much money we make is first.
I'd have to agree. I think that it seems like, in today's modern society, there's a lot of us that your worth is measured by your worth.
Right.
Not by who you are, but or what you're doing, but
measured by your net worth.
Yeah, exactly. That's a tough one to get past. That's like for women right now. I can't tell you how often I have to tell my wife, or even there's other women in the world. I know there's plenty of women in the world that want you to constantly reassure them on how good they look. And it's part of, I believe, because of the pressures the world puts on the way they look. And it just, when your buddy buys something brand new, if you don't take the time to tell him, dude, cool new gun, right? He's gonna feel like you're not appreciating the thing that he did or he achieved. It took me a lot of work to get past feeling like that, like I was tied directly to my accomplishments. I still have trouble with it, actually, a lot.
Yeah, I would imagine. I've got a 30-year-old son who is his truck.
Yeah.
I've got this truck in the driveway.
Yeah.
I'm awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, it's a piece of metal.
Yeah. So I've actually had a really, really rough week just recently. And I had my dad come over last night. Him and I were talking. And he had to remind me that too. Like, So my cars, I've got 3 broke down cars in my driveway right now.
Uh-huh.
And they're all broke down for different reasons. And it's super stressful because it's like, just as I'm starting to get one finished, the next one breaks down. I like to work with my hands, so I'm the one doing these things, of course. And I got a lot of broken stuff around me right now. I have to keep reminding myself, I'm not the stuff around me that's broken. I'm not these things that have failed or aren't working. That's not me. That's not my worth. Those are just things that I'm associated with, and they're not working the way I want them to right now. But they'll get better eventually.
Yeah, my demons. I know where my demons would take me, and I'm sure it's the case for, if not most every other man, then probably every other man. But my demons would say, my cars are broken, my life is broken, I'm broken.
Oh, yeah, that's a hard one to fight. Like I said, I was having trouble with that literally last night. Had my dad over. I was telling him, dude, I am having a rough week. I'm getting emotional talking about it right now.
Uh-huh.
It's been a rough week. I've had a lot of rough things happen all at once. And sometimes it's tough to remember you're not your problems. I guess that's all I got to say on it for the moment. Where else do you want to go with this? I'm trying to avoid it on purpose already.
And I'm more than happy to give it a pregnant pause because this is one of those beautiful moments.
No, it's fine. It's been a real rough week. So to get without going too far into the sob story, the truck broke down. I'm trying to expand my business. I didn't have time for that. So I took it to the dealership. They couldn't find the problem. Convinced they're idiots, I took it to another place that I thought would find me the answers. While it was there, somebody slashed all 4 tires.
Oh, man.
And they refused to fix them. The mechanic won't do anything about it. Which, I mean, it's in a parking lot. I feel like they're responsible for it, but at the same time, too, I can see the logic and the argument behind it. So I went in there and I told them, look, don't make me be mean. Just fix this for me. So they patched the tires, which is a sidewall patch. It's not a great solution there. But I get it home and start working on it myself. I get torn into it. It's the worst thing it could possibly be. I've got to pull the whole engine out of that truck. I've already got another truck in the yard that's my work truck. It's broke down with the engine out of it too. And then last night, the dishwasher broke and went bad. The microwave broke and went bad. My wife came home and said, hey, I was over at my mom's house trying to help clean. The vacuum broke.
Oh, man.
Like, it's all at once, man. So I was having a rough night because I was feeling like, oh, that was my fault. And in no way.
Wasn't your fault.
It's not. Just have to remind yourself of that.
Reminds me of a country song where it's like, yeah, I got no money and my washer breaks. I don't listen to country much, but then the response is, yeah, that's life. And of course, it makes perfect sense to say it, that just because my washer broke doesn't mean I am.
Yeah, right.
But we all do it to ourselves. So I'll let you off the hook just a skosh.
Oh, well, that's fine. We can go as far as you want to go with this. I'll open up. If I'm going to cry like a little baby, I guess I will. But
I'm going to be perfectly honest here. When I have a guest who opens up and cries, I feel like that's a success for me because I have made it a safe enough place that the person feels like it's okay for him to do it.
Well, I listened to one of your podcasts on the way in here earlier today. I had time to do it, and I decided, you know what, I'm gonna. That's the whole point of this, right? Is we're supposed to be talking about things that other guys don't want to talk about. Traditionally, this would be a subject still sore to me. I wouldn't talk about it for a week.
Okay.
To anybody else.
Yeah.
But I'll open up here today.
Okay.
That's what we got to do. It's good for men to see other men doing that sort of thing.
Well, let me give you a break from that. We'll come back to the deeper, darker stuff. But let's step back a bit.
Okay.
You've got a few followers.
A few. It still kind of feels unreal sometimes. But the social media thing, I realized that it was going to be something that would help my business grow back when I was trying to figure out how to grow a business during the COVID shutdown. And so I decided to sit down and analyze the social media and come to my own conclusions on what was entertaining, what people find interesting, how to create content that people want to see and grow a page because people are interested in what it has instead of sensationalizing. And so I devised an idea and a plan and implemented it and then reintegrated on that over and over and over for about 6 months until I started achieving success. And then I just stuck to that and have tweaked it a little bit. But in the last year and a half, it's done what it did.
I think a lot of people are going to be listening, and this is the reason I'm wanting to go this direction right now. Is
Okay.
a lot of guys are going to be listening, going, "Man, I don't make enough money, or I do make enough money, but I'm insanely bored. I need something more and different in my life."
Okay.
And so they're thinking, if this guy knows how to do social media, that sounds fun to me. So I'm wanting to do this mini segment on social media so that I can perhaps inspire
Okay.
some of those 50,000 guys.
Okay.
Do you have a website on that?
On the social media or for the home inspection stuff? What?
Whatever you.
So I've got a website for my home inspection stuff. That's primarily for my business. But the social media, I started teaching classes on how to do social media about 6 months ago. It's a growing thing that I'm trying, that I've realized there's a lot of people in the world need that. They need somebody that can come show them how to make the videos that fit well on social media. How do you make short form content? How do you make long form content? What do you clip out? What is the fat that can go? What is the stuff that you should keep?
Right.
What are the basics to create a viral video? I went through and watched hundreds upon hundreds of videos that had hundreds of thousands of likes and hundreds of thousands of views, millions of views sometimes, and carefully watched those videos strictly with the intention of figuring out what is in this video that is the same as the last video that I watched that was viral. The two of them have to have something that's the same. They've all got to have something in common, right? And I tried to figure out what that was and then reproduce it in my videos over and over and over. And every now and then I get one that goes viral. On average right now, I have a video that gets over 100,000 views about once a week.
Oh, nice.
Which is hard to do for a lot of guys that have 50,000, that have 80,000 followers, let alone 50,000 followers. So it's just, after figuring that out and doing it, I started talking to people about it and giving them advice, and their videos started doing better. And I realized I've got some knowledge here that maybe not a lot of people have, or maybe a lot of people do, but I present it in a better way.
What's your website on that?
I don't have a website for it yet. If you guys want to see what I do and you're looking to get in contact with me, you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. On Instagram and TikTok, I'm Home Inspector _ Salt Lake. On Facebook, I'm CNH Inspections. You can find my phone numbers and stuff on there. I'm looking to grow and expand and teach more people how to do this social media thing.
Awesome. Okay. As you were building that, we all have our demons. Did your demons come at you as that was happening? Did they tell you, you're not good enough to be an influencer, you'll never do this, why are you doing this? Did you have any of that?
My demons show up after I start.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I don't have the voice in my head that says you can't do that. And it might be a problem in my life. It might have led to a lot of issues in my life. But I don't. I just don't have a voice that says, no, Beau, you can't be a helicopter pilot. I decided I wanted to be a helicopter pilot and then became one.
Okay.
I decided that I wanted to quit helicopters and start a home inspection business, and I did it. I decided I wanted to become an influencer, and I did it. The problem is that once I get started and things don't work out the way I thought they would, that's when the voices show up and say, you always do this. You start something that you think you're going to do. You've decided you're going to do it. It's just going to fall apart in your hands, man. You're not going to get it this time. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know enough. You're just faking it. This isn't an area like, who are you to, you were a helicopter pilot, now you're a home inspector. How do you know anything about social media? Where do you get the gall to think that you can figure it out on your own? There's people that make entire careers, go to college for this stuff to figure out how to do it. How do you know how to do it? And fighting those voices, those are some of my big fights, is convincing myself that once I've started a project, I'm good enough to continue and finish it. Sometimes they win. So I listened to one of your podcasts just recently on the way in here. You've talked about with other guys about thinking about suicide. I've had that moment.
Okay.
I've had to get past that. And that was the same voice that talks to me sometimes when I go to start a big project. The voices in my head sometimes will tell me, you're not going to succeed, Beau. This isn't going to work. And I have to struggle to get past that. And I can't do it alone. I thought I could for a while, but that was where I was wrong. That was the one that got me in that dark situation. You can't do it alone. You got to talk to the people around you, lean on them, get some support, get advice. When you've got a big idea and you want to move forward with it, you should talk to the people in your life about the idea. And those that don't think it's a good idea, listen to the conversation they're trying to tell you, the reasons why they're trying to tell you it's not a good idea. That doesn't mean you shouldn't, but they should be the voices in your head that are saying you shouldn't do it, not the evil one that hates you. Because I think we've all, as guys, we've all probably got that nasty evil voice in the back of your head that tries to tell you that you're not good enough, or that you're not going to make it, or whatever it is you're trying to achieve. It gets in the way. You should listen to your dad be critical, but I shouldn't listen to that voice because it's way meaner than my dad.
That's for sure. Yeah, I go back to, I married Julie 21 years ago.
Okay.
And the time she was the Secretary of the State. That was the height of her accomplishments at that point in her life. And I married her, and I knew that there was much more to her than had been showing up until then. I mean, she had been in Amway, and I could tell she was really good at MLM stuff.
She did good at in Amway.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. All right.
Yeah, that's like impossible. But and again, this was many years ago. But she was bringing in $2,000-$3,000 a month in Amway back when that was some money.
Yeah.
So I married her, and I could see a lot of doubt in her, and she actually voiced it one day. She says, "What makes me think that I can run a business?" And, my best answer for her was, trust me, I've met a lot of business owners, and they're all idiots, and you got more brains than they do.
I'm an idiot.
So am I.
Yeah. All the way. I get that all the time. All the time I think to myself, what on earth are you doing, Beau? Running a business? A couple of businesses?
Uh-huh.
What are you doing? And the answer is whatever the heck I want to do, and this seems to make me happy right now, so that's the direction I'm going in.
It's not about your insecurities then. It's about, this is what I want to do, so I'm going to do it.
For me, yeah, a lot of times, that's where I end up, going. I go through these big life adventures. It seems like where I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do next. I figure it out, I point myself in that direction, do what it takes to achieve that goal, the steps that it takes to achieve that goal. And then the last two times I did this, where I got to the end, I didn't know what to do with it. This time, the next two times that I did that with CNH inspections, I have goals for that business. I want it to grow. I have goals for that, for the social media thing. I want it to grow and help CNH. I also have goals for that. I think that's one of the things that helped me pull myself out of my darker places, is to realize that for a change, instead of just saying, I'm going to become a helicopter pilot. And then once I did that and I got to the end of it, I was like, okay, now I have to be happy with this.
Right.
Instead, it's, okay, so the steps that I want, the things that I want to achieve, once I get there, am I still going to be happy with the fact that I achieved it? Because I'm a doer, and I'm sure there's a lot of us that are doers, and you get done and you're wondering if you're happy with the project or anything like that. I feel like at the end of helicopters, I didn't realize it was going to be what it is. I should have looked into it and figured it out. I should have had a plan further than just, I'm going to fly helicopters. That's going to be really cool. And with the home inspector thing and the social media thing, I feel like I've got a plan further ahead, and it's really helped me stay balanced. And
maybe that's the key. I'm looking for the difference between your path and maybe the guy who has the 8-to-5 job that he's had for the last 20 years, and he's hated every day of it because he feels trapped. Daddy ATM, got to keep bringing home the money because the wife and kids need to keep eating.
yeah,
You've given yourself permission to have a little bit of an adventure in life. And, I did the same thing. I mean, I went searching for the almighty dollar and who would think that designing rocket motors would be insanely boring?
Actually, I know a couple of people that would agree with you. So,
That was about the same time I think it was my first daughter. She would have been under 1 year old, and she had constant toothaches and earaches, and she just cried. She cried all night, every night. So my wife and I would take 1.5 hour shifts because less than that was not enough sleep time, and more than that was humanly impossible. And so I would be standing there in the living room holding her, dreaming about how do I write an engineering changeover with an is and was condition, showing how she needs to stop crying, or how she is crying and she needs to stop crying. What does that is and was condition look like? And then I'd be frustrated because I couldn't figure out how to draw that. That's how bad it was.
wow.
And then I'd go to work and try to survive, and that was rugged. But it's I went there chasing money. I thought that all that mattered was the money. If I made more money, I was more happy. I found out later that was not true.
They've done a lot of research on it lately. Turns out after $200,000, you're not any happier. And even then, for somebody who has yet to hit that $200,000 mark, more money isn't. I was making more money than I've ever made in my life flying helicopters in Hawaii. Once I got to the big company, I was still living pretty poor because it was Hawaii. But I moved out here and made a lot less money. I started up with a company that when I left those guys back in the day, they were the 9 to 5 that got me through college, right? And got me through my aviation school days. When I left those guys, I swore I'd never go back. I was so unhappy with them. And I came back out here after flying helicopters for years and years and start right back up with them because they were more than happy to have me because I still knew all of that stuff. And it was the stablest paycheck I could get while I started a new company. And it felt like going backwards in a big way. But I was so happy to do it at that point in time because it was headed in the direction I felt like was leading to more happiness for me and less worry about. I mean, there's still worry about money. There's still worry about a lot of stuff. But I don't know. I'm with my family out here in Utah. My daughter gets to see her grandparents in Hawaii. She was seeing them once a month, or not once a month, once a year. She had no clue who they were every time they came out. She was 2, so I mean, at that age, if it had been a month since she'd seen them, she wouldn't have known who they were. But it made me feel terrible, and I started thinking about it and going, we're going to get to the point where she's 10, and I'm not going to want to move away anymore, because you move around a lot as a helicopter pilot, and I'm not going to want to not be gone. And it's already, I moved to Hawaii and lived in Hawaii for a few months, hit a base of operations for Jess and I before she moved out there with me. And I missed Blakely taking her first steps. That was rough. I was not happy with that. So
one of my biggest regrets is I would do that. In my case, it was about a 45 to 50 minute commute from Salt Lake North Temple to, at the time, Lehigh.
Okay.
And so I-15 and all the traffic there. And then right the last 5, maybe 3 miles. But it was a horribly maintained road, very bumpy. So yeah, my energy level just got finished off, sapped, as I made those last few miles of my commute. And so I got home, and here's my regret from that time. My girls, who were 6 to 10 at the time, Daddy's home, yay, Daddy, play with me. And I'm like, oh, give me a few minutes. And so I was like, I got to read the paper. I got to do something where nothing is happening. Nobody's talking to me. There's no input. There's no output. I need some zero time.
Yeah.
And so they were like, okay. And then they went off to play, and that was the end of that. Maybe the playing happened later. Maybe it didn't. But it wasn't much longer after that I got divorced, and there was no daddy's home time because I lived somewhere else. And that was painful. So, that became one of my bigger regrets at the time. Still, I mean, I could have spent more moments when I had access to them.
Yeah, I living in Hawaii with my wife and I had those two teenagers living with us, plus Blakely, my little girl, and Jess said she couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't live with couldn't do it anymore. Not digging too deep into all the whys, and she took Blakely and left. And Kenzie, at that point in time, she was 18, so she moved away too, and it was just me and the teenage boy, and he was more preoccupied with girls and friends and schools and everything in his life and being mean to everybody that was close to him, because that's what teenage boys do, than he was about what was going on in my world. And that was the roughest time in my life was right after my wife left, when I was in Hawaii and Zach and I went and got that house and it was just the two of us. It was a bad 6 months there. And then Carl and I started working on home inspections. I kind of had a new purpose and things I was going to do. Carl was a great mentor for me. He's the guy that I did the home inspections with in Hawaii. By the time I was done with all of that, I had a new view on life, new purpose on life. I had to kind of reshape the way I thought about myself and everything else. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world, but it was absolutely the darkest time of my life was when my wife left and I was in Hawaii by myself.
One of the things I feel like as the interviewer, I need to do two things well. One is to listen well. The other is to ask good questions well.
Okay.
And so I'm trying to do that. I probably suck at both. But you said you reshaped your life. What was the before and after? What's the is and was condition?
Physically, mentally, all of it, everything. So I found myself on a turnout on the Hamakua Highway at like 1 a.m. with a bag of Twinkies next to me and a 6-pack of beer in the back that was empty. And I was looking at the guardrail thinking, man, if I went down there, it wouldn't be long before I drowned. And then I went home instead of jumping off that guardrail. I lost 70 pounds. I changed careers. I taught myself a new trade. And I started treating that boy that was living with me a lot better. Started treating my wife a lot better whenever we did talk. And I focused more on trying to turn myself into the person that I thought I was than the person I really was. I wanted to be a lot of things. I wanted to get up in the morning and not be sore and have the energy to go swim at when Zach and I went to the beach once, I wanted to go swim with him, and I was in the water for like 30 minutes before I said, I got to get out, man. I'm tired. There's a lot of swimming for 30 minutes. And that was a week later. I was sitting there thinking, 30 minutes of swimming? You couldn't do that? And that was one of the things that I'm talking about too, the voices that come in your head later. I'll go out there and I'll swim, and then later the voices will come in my head and go, I can't believe that that's where the voices get after me. So I got some self-help books, started reading those. I went back through some old psychology texts from high school and started learning a little bit about the human mind and what causes your brain to do those sort of things. And I kind of turned my own self around. But it wasn't permanent. I'm currently in therapy.
You want to talk about that?
So moved back from Hawaii, got back with my wife. Things were great. They did really, really good for like a year and a half. And then things backslid a little bit. And we had some big fights, and they didn't go anywhere good. And I realized that, and that with some prodding from my wife, of course, that the self-help route, to fight my own demons on my own, it worked for a while, but it's not a permanent solution, I don't think. You got to have other people helping you with this that you can talk to about it.
And you mentioned that earlier. You attributed your business success to the fact that you didn't rely on yourself for everything.
Yeah.
And now you're saying that your marriage success is attributed to you didn't rely on yourself for everything.
Right?
We might have a theme here.
Yeah, I think you found the theme. Don't rely on yourself for all of it. You don't got to be self-reliant for all of it. And that's probably one of the biggest lessons I have yet to completely learn. I don't know if I've got that one down yet, because again, a lot of those problems I'm having right now, when my dad came over the other night, I was talking to him, I just felt alone with all of it because I'm the only one that can fix it all.
Right.
My wife can't. My dad's too busy. So I got to do it all. And it got overwhelming. That, and, between all the other things I have going on, anytime my current home life isn't just perfect and smooth like I want it to be, it feels like a lot right now. So with all of those things combined.
Yeah, because you're broken because your truck is.
Yeah, exactly. Broken because both of my trucks are broken. Right? It was just a pile of things this time. And the more and see, even talking with you about it right now, I was crying about it a few minutes ago. And now I can sit here and tell you, microwave's broken, dishwasher's broken, the truck's broken. I got to redo, like completely rebuild 2 truck engines. I don't have the time for that. But talking with somebody makes me realize it's kind of dumb that that I'm so focused on this is something I gotta do. I'll get to it eventually. I should focus more on the people around me, and that if I really need the help, my dad will come turn some wrenches with me one evening if I need to. When I was talking to my dad last night about the dishwasher, I'm renting the house I'm in right now from him. And so he's the one that's got to replace it. And that was one of the things he told me last night. Like, this is my job. What are you worried about?
Right. We all like to pile on ourselves.
Well, I'm one of those people that rather than call my landlord to come fix my dishwasher, it's a $25 circulation pump in the bottom of the dishwasher. Pull it out and put a new one in.
Right.
I know that stuff, so it seems real easy and simple to me. To other people, I understand that it can be complicated. But it just, for me, last night, it was like, I got to do the circulation pump and the dishwasher. I got to figure out what's going on with this microwave and buy and replace one, which means I got to have time to pick a microwave that I think would be a good. And just all that stuff felt like too much last night. And it took having my dad come over. My wife was there, and she's a great support. She really is. But you got to sometimes have another guy in your life, too, that can do that. Carl, my mentor in Hawaii. When I'm having troubles business-wise or even with just ideas in life, I can call him and bounce things off of him. Carl, if you're listening to this, dude, I love you. I can call him. He's my mentor. He's the one that I bounce those ideas off of. Great.
I'm gonna say you're a lucky man. You got 2 dudes that you can go to.
You have to realize that you have those in your life, though. Like, even if you don't have a dad, there's going to be somebody in your life that you can talk to. Even if you don't feel safe talking to that guy right now, if you just took a second to open up to him, he'd probably be like, I appreciate the fact that you talked to me about this, and might even open up himself. It's just hard to do that.
I think most of us guys, we give ourselves nobody. I mean, in my case, I think this is just a common male malady. I didn't intend to rhyme there, but we adopt our wives' friends, so they're kind of like step friends.
Yeah.
And then their husbands become step friends, and I am just not close enough to anybody to really open up with something like that. Oh my gosh, my truck's broken, my dishwasher's broken, I feel like I'm broken. I mean, I might go over and share a Coke with them and go, stay superficial and basically say, yeah, everything's broken at my house, and he might laugh, but on a deeper level to go, man, I feel like I'm broken. I'm not digging life right now.
It's hard to say that. I mean, I came in here with the idea that I'd open up, and just telling you that I was having a hard time is what was causing the tears. Not that I was frustrated about it. I've got past those frustrations. It's just that I don't want to have to tell people I'm having a hard time. I don't like the fact that I'm having a hard time. Why would I want to tell people that?
Yeah, that's unmanly. It's like, don't cry, don't have feelings, don't have anything because somebody made up a rule that says you can't have any emotion other than fear. But if you have fear, then you're a toxic man, and we all hate you. Yeah,
well, and why wouldn't you overcome your fears? That's what men do. Right? We overcome our fears.
Or man up and shove them down and just pretend that they're not there.
Well, that's the same thing as overcoming, isn't it? Isn't that right?
And you know what's a real good solution for that? Jack Daniels.
Yeah, there's all sorts of problems in that bottle.
And, and if those guys don't work, then there's another really good solution that solves everything. And that's a D, and that's called divorce.
Yeah. Um, I don't know if it makes things better. I mean, it makes things simpler. Because I feel like I gotta have a miniature divorce experience. So when Jess and I separated, it was a year and a half
Uh-huh.
before we lived in the same house again. She moved back to Utah and I stayed in Hawaii.
Okay.
And I mean, I had the opportunity to decide that I was done with this marriage thing and go off on my merry own way and find somebody else. And I mean, I had plenty of time to do that. And I thought about it. I know she did too. I don't. She's told me her reasons for staying. I'm not going to share those here. But my reasons for staying is because I enjoy my time with her more than I didn't. And I wanted to work things out even after a year and a half. I've had friends. I had a friend in Hawaii who had been separated for a while, and he gave me all sorts of advice on his ideas of being married or divorced. And again, having somebody to talk to about that stuff is so valuable, and I don't feel like there are any men in the world that prize that. When I moved back from Hawaii to Utah, I had a long time reconnecting with a lot of the friends that I had left here for years and years. They'd moved on with different lives.
Uh-huh.
That was hard because all I had was my dad. And he was busy and I was busy. And then I had my wife. And I'm still trying to get adjusted to that, to people that I have face to face here. I've got a friend named Sam. I've got my dad. I got some work associates. But really, it's just Sam, my dad, and then Carl. He still lives in Hawaii. We talk to each other all the time. But you got to have people in your life that you can talk to face if you want to make it through the dark spots.
And I'm pretty sure most of us want to make through those dark spots. So, what you mentioned, there's 1,000 questions I've wanted to ask along the way, and then I chose a different question. But you said at one point that you wanted, or that you wanted to be who you are. You wanted to figure out who you really are, and then be that guy. Who is, this is another is and was condition to write on the change order. Who did you want to be? Are you that person now? And how far are you presently the person that you want to be?
I'm not that person now. I don't know if I ever will be, and that's okay. Right? You can't be perfect. You're never going to achieve every single goal that you desire. And if I tried to hold myself to that, I probably would have jumped off that rail. For me, who I want to be is the happy-go-lucky guy. I want to be the one that smiles and bounces into everybody's lives and makes things better.
Mm-hmm.
I want to walk in, and you guys, when I walk out, I want everybody to go, man, I like it when he's around. Right? That's what I want. I want to be the guy that makes everything better. But that also means that it comes with the caveat of I'm never going to have a bad day. At least that's the way it felt like for a while. I had to realize that I get to have bad days. But I got so preoccupied with the problems in life that I stopped being happy most of the time.
Oh, that doesn't happen in your present life at all.
Yeah, right? I got so preoccupied in the things that I wanted but I didn't achieve that I stopped being happy about what I had. So, I had to turn that around. I had to change the way I viewed a lot of that. That was, I guess, for your, was. It needs to go from, I wasn't happy with what was there because I was so focused on all the wrong things. And I needed to be focused on the right things to be the person that I wanted to be.
Right.
And it takes daily work. I have to constantly remind myself, you're focusing too much on the negative things, or you're looking at this too negatively. I tell myself all the time, in a bad situation, just stop for a second, take a breath, and find the silver lining. And that takes a lot of power out of bad situations for me. If I stop and say, so that somebody slashed the tires on that truck.
Mm-hmm.
It's at a shop. They haven't got answers for me. Where the heck is the silver lining in this situation? I haven't even got the problem solved yet, and I'm trying to get myself calm enough that when this client gets to this house, I could talk to him without looking like I want to kill him.
Right.
because I'm in a real bad mood right now.
Hey, you get new tires.
Exactly. The tires on that truck are pretty close to bald. I guess now I have a reason to go get new tires finally. Jess will be happy.
Yeah, there's
New tires on the truck.
there's the silver lining. At least they didn't slash good tires.
And that was it. That was all I had for myself was they were bad tires already. I'd be a lot angrier if I had put new tires on that truck and they were refusing to replace new tires.
You know, I've heard stories like that where you find out at the very end, and I'm going to ad lib a little bit on this, but you find out at the very end that maybe it was a God thing because that tire was going to blow.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard those kind of stories where that kind of stuff happens. You know, some horrible thing happens and then you find out, yeah, sure was a good thing it did.
Yeah.
Anyway, you'd mentioned also that you were near suicide. Was that the moment with the Twinkies and the guardrail?
Yeah, man. My wife was gone. My daughter was gone. So, and then Zach was mean. And I just couldn't sleep that night. I was stressed. I don't even remember what I was stressing about, but it kept me up. I couldn't sleep. So I drove down the highway because it was beautiful. And I just wanted to see something pretty. And I pulled over and I realized that everything sucked.
Uh-huh.
My wife's not like everything I thought about sucked. There wasn't a single thing that didn't in my life absolutely suck. And how could it suck? I'm a helicopter pilot in Hawaii. What do I have to complain about? I have no room to complain to anybody about these problems. Everybody that I tell, anybody that I mention to, like, I'm having a rough time. And I had told a couple of people, I would always get back.
Dude, you're a helicopter pilot in Hawaii.
Right? What do you mean you have problems?
Yeah, I can see it now. So Zach sucks. My wife sucks. My life sucks. I'm alone. That sucks. I hate my job, and I can't even. And that sucks. I can't tell anybody about it. That sucks.
Yeah,
because they won't listen, and that sucks. And I probably even the truck you were driving had something that sucked about it.
Actually, I was driving a car that we called Rattle Wagon. If that gives you any idea of just how much that car sucked. Yeah, there wasn't. I had moved into a house that it was all bad. Everything, and there wasn't a single thing that I could look at. I couldn't find a silver lining. At that point, I wasn't trying to find them.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't changed that perspective in my life at that point of time. And it just got darker and scarier and darker and scarier. And then I looked out at that guardrail and I went and sat on it for like a while.
Uh-huh.
And let my feet dangle. Thought maybe a cop will come talk to me. Nobody came.
Nobody came.
I got off of it myself.
Why?
I was scared.
Uh-huh.
That's it.
I interviewed a guy not long ago who said he was going to commit suicide, but he needed to have somebody care. And so the one thing that prevented him from committing suicide is he needed to make some friends so that somebody would care that he was gone.
That's rough.
Yeah. It's, and I don't know which podcast you listen to. I've had my moments where I was planning my suicide. I was sure that my life sucked.
Yeah.
I was like, my wife doesn't love me. I don't really have any friends. My kids act like, they could take or leave me. I actually asked my wife once, I said, what's the difference between me and a life insurance payment? And she thought about it for a minute. She goes, the kids would miss you. And, all of that fed into my belief that at worst, it would be not a problem if I was not on the planet. At best, hey, the kids have got money. And, that was short-sighted. I live a pretty good life right now. I did lose that woman, by the way. Thank goodness. Yeah. My present wife, Julie, has an answer to that question. It's, I need you. And yeah, I'm glad that I had it planned. I was going to go up Provo Canyon, and there's that river there in Provo Canyon.
Yeah.
And I was going to go in a topless sports car and then just miss a corner. and he'll end up face down in the river, and that would be a cool way to end it.
Yeah.
Then the biggest decision that I had was, should I go in a nice sports car or a crappy one? Because if I'm in a crappy one, then the kids at least have a little bit more money. So we've all been there. There's some statistics about that, but we've all been there. And
Yeah, it was weird for me. I don't know if everybody's answer is I was scared, but for me, that's what it boiled down to. Is I was scared that it was the wrong decision. I thought about it for a long time. I got scared, but I couldn't get off the rail for a while after I got scared. It wasn't until I started thinking about Blakely and what the results would do to her.
This is your 2-year-old.
Yeah. Well, that and then Zach and Kenzie's parents committed her that she died by overdose. So I know what it did to them. Her decision to take her own life was hard on them.
Yeah.
Don't want to do that to my kid. And that was inevitably what got me off the rail.
Yeah. I could go on about, some of the other stories I have about suicide. We could go there all day long. I interviewed one guy who got left a couple of times, one by suicide, one by divorce. And he just decided that he was somebody that could easily be left, that he wasn't worth hanging around. And that's rough.
Yeah.
We all sign up for pretty hard lives.
Yeah. Nobody's journey is easy, regardless of how much money you've got. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I guess, that kind of brings us around to the beginning of the podcast. If you think your worth is, and your purpose is about whether you're making $200,000 or whether you got the truck or whether your trucks are broken, you're pointed the wrong direction. What is the right direction? What do you believe is the right direction?
Whatever's right for you. So it turns out for me, the things that make me happiest are my family and music. I like both of those things. I like also being a creator. I like creating art, the whole social media thing. I like creating things and putting those out. I feel like I'm good at that too. But the reality of it all is that the most important thing in my life, at least, is making sure that I am taking steps in a direction that I think would make me happy in the end. Mm-hmm. And then find the silver lining in the problems that occur on the way there.
I see that. So many of us guys, and I've been many years of my life in this exact place. It's like my job is, my purpose, my role, my everything is to get up in the morning, do the commute to a job that I hate, put the hours in, come home, survive the commute again, make sure my kids are fed, and then get up and do it again. And it doesn't matter that this is barely survival for me, that it's not even existing, and I hate it, but I'm the guy. It's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to get up, go kill something, drag it home, and that's me. That's my life. That's what I do. And every other man does it, so I need to just accept it.
Sure, you can do that, but you're not going to be super happy with that. I mean, I'm not saying that a 9-to-5 is wrong for everybody. I'm not saying that you can't, that if you're not happy in your job, that you've got to quit your job and go find the job that makes you happy.
Right.
We are by no definitions the things that we do for work. It is part of who you are. That the people that try to say you're not what you do for work, I disagree with that. That's part of who you are. Right? You partly are what you do for work. It's part of you. But you need to figure out how to make that the other parts of you matter more than this thing that sucks a lot. If you're working a 9-to-5, you get home and all you do is eat dinner, watch TV, and go to bed. My advice would be to find 30 minutes in there to do something that is your hobby. I work on social media every night before I go to bed. I edit my videos. I enjoy that. Some people would probably hate it, but before I go to bed at night, there's 2 things I do. I try to find a new piece of knowledge that I didn't know before, so that I'm always learning something. And then I edit social media now, which is not something I used to do, but it's a hobby. If you don't like your job, if you don't feel like you're getting anywhere good in life, pick up a hobby because it gives you a chance to find something that's a meaningful way to do things.
Well, and now you're describing me. My hobby, my passion is doing these podcasts.
Yeah.
And I've been on the other side. I mean, I've been in that place where it's like, 8 to 5, eat, TV, rinse and repeat. And I blamed everyone but myself because my life was so bland. And, there were some pretty dire consequences for me taking that route. The person I needed to blame was myself.
That's a hard pill to swallow too, as a guy, right? The reason why I was out of shape and overweight in Hawaii was because I allowed myself to get that way. And for me, that's something that I wasn't happy with, and I was upset with myself about. I allowed myself to get there and then shot myself for allowing that to happen. And sometimes it takes friends and friends to stand back and go, you're shooting yourself over something. If you're upset with your weight or you're upset with X, Y, Z, A, B, C, the solution is you can fix that. Yeah. You do have the option to fix that, right? And you don't need to kill yourself for making the mistake. You made the mistake. You're not happy with the outcome. Fix it and talk with somebody about it so that they can tell you need to fix it, and then they can help hold you accountable, which really helps a lot too. Having somebody to hold you accountable for the improvements you want to make in yourself.
Yeah, what I'm hearing you say, that's the theme. That's one of the themes in this podcast, this episode, is have somebody else, let somebody else help you.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that person, it's up to you. I mean, you can find the hobby, you can find the friend, but you got to be willing to leave your TV room and go get vulnerable with somebody.
Yeah. It's really easy to come home after a long day of work. Give your wife a peck on the cheek, pat your kid on the head, sit down in front of the TV and turn on your favorite show and zone out for 15 minutes. Everybody in the house knows your routine because that's what you need when you get home after a long day.
Uh-huh.
A little bit of time to decompress, like you were saying, right?
Right.
But it's real easy to take that and just stretch it into the end of the evening, add a couple of beers, and hang out. Doing something like that makes you feel good and numb on the inside and kind of takes care of the problems, but it also slowly destroys your family.
Right.
You're there, you talk with your daughter, and you participate when you can and stuff like that. But just coming home at the end of the day and sitting down and watching TV, I don't advise on that. I feel like that's real bad for people. Come home and find something to do beyond just the TV. I don't care what it is. Just find something to do. Play with your kids. Talk to a friend. It's really easy to isolate yourself, to come home, even with all those people around you, and say, I just need some time alone to decompress, which you do.
Uh-huh.
But it's easy to take it too far. That's what I did. I feel like I took it too far, and it drove Jess away at that, and I started getting mean because she was bugging me. Give me some time to be alone. And
oh, yeah. She wanted to be loved, and you wanted to zone out and go to...
Or she'd get home, and it had been a long day with the kids, and all she wants to do is go out and go do something on her own for a minute. I'd be like, I just been out, working all day long. I don't want to stay here with the kids. Why don't we go do something? Well, we can't go do something on our own. We got to take the kids with us. I was so preoccupied with coming home and trying to decompress from work and move on to the next slog the next day and not take my worries and my concerns and all the crap that was weighing on me and talk with anybody about it. Just stuff it down and watch TV. Right. Drink a couple of beers when it gets too bad. Talk to Jose Cuervo. Right?
It kind of sounds like TV is kind of a mini Jose, actually.
I think so.
Or it can be.
It can be. It can be if you allow it to be. Same thing if you lay too much social media, it can do the same thing. Whatever it is that you're allowing to distract yourself with, those distractions in this day and age can be way too good. And they can go from an distraction to an addiction of sorts.
Right.
And start getting in the way and change the way you act and behave. That was part of my problem too, is I was trying so hard to get away from the way I felt about things around me not being the way I thought they would be. I thought I'd be this rich, successful helicopter pilot with a family that loved me, and I made tons of money, and I could go, jet around the world on the week that I was off, because I was on, working 1 week on, 1 week off, except for, You never take the time to think about the fact that 1 week on, 1 week off means you're only getting paid for half of the work. You're not working actually 2 weeks in that pay period. There's only 1 week of pay in that pay period.
Right.
So the reality started to fall in on me, and I was just trying to get away from it. And as a result, I buried myself in my sadness and my misery and pushed everybody away. And then when they all left, I made it worse. I beat myself up even worse. And look at what you just did. You sent them all away. That was your fault for doing that.
That was more suck to your list of when you were sitting.
Oh, yeah. It just got bigger. And just kind of like what happened last night. You know, I was having a tough time because there was a bunch of broken stuff in my life. And then in one day, the microwave, the dishwasher, the vacuum, like everything fell apart.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of grateful it did, because it resulted in a more pain to you today.
Yeah, a more emotional version of me. I'm usually not this weepy, but I had a rough night last night. I didn't even get that much sleep, but it's okay. I think this went good. I feel like
I feel like it did. You have those 50,000 followers. What, I don't know how many of them are dudes. Let's say 49,000 are.
I could open it up and tell you exactly what the percentage is. It'll tell me. I haven't looked in a while, but it's a majority.
You have this moment to tell them whatever you want.
This moment to tell my 50,000 followers whatever I want. Thank you. That's what I want to tell those people. Thank you for following me, and I'm going to keep doing what I have been doing. I'm trying to be a helpful person that educates and entertains, but I'm also going to keep doing stuff like this. On my story, I try to be real and post about my family and my life. I'm going to keep trying to be upfront. And I think this here, too, has helped me out a lot. I think I should start speaking out a little bit more on men's mental health and giving some advice on it, because maybe I have more to give than I thought.
I think we all have more to give than we thought.
It's a good sentiment. Yeah.
Thanks, Beau.
No problem.
Thank you for listening to this Manalizing podcast. I appreciate it. I don't go hunting for men with big stories and big issues to deal with. I find that pretty much any man that I talk to, he's going to have a story. If you're inspired by what you hear, here's my invitation. Join us. Join Manalizing. Manalizing.com. Lift and be lifted. Help other men and allow other men to help you. Let's do this together. We look forward to meeting you. Manalizing.com.